Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and we're finally here. We're at my number one entry in my top 10 directors series, which I'm just going to say this now, this is probably going to be my last series for a while. I want to start focusing my energy on trying to really build up my reviews and trying to do something to make them more interesting and stand out, as I don't have a whole lot of viewership. So I'm trying to focus on more of those things, and then once I do have some more viewership, trying to do some cool things like this. But I'm very excited to talk about this one. I even wore my Lebowski's Rug Emporium shirt very specifically because if you know me, you knew this one was coming. The Coen Brothers. The Coen Brothers are my favorite directors, and I love what they do. They create and capture such interesting characters where a story might be lacking. Those characters, whether they're on screen for like 30 seconds for just one scene, they always know how to stick out. And whether it's like Hail Caesar, where all of those characters are played by actual famous people, or some great character work like in True Grit with the frickin' bear suit guy. Like, are you kidding me? How'd they make that? Was like, but I got my bear skin. And it's just like, can't help but laugh. But everything, from the most mundane, small characters, everything works in terms of characters when it comes to Coen Brothers films, and they're so outrageous and so interesting that they basically elevate most material that the Coen Brothers have done. Coen Brothers do have some misfires, and I'll talk a little bit about them, but overall, I absolutely love all their work. And the character work, the work that the Coens do with Roger Deakins especially, because their films have such a very distinct look to them. And in terms of the tone, I think the tone is what really fits Coen Brothers, is that they have a dark sense of humor, and it really fits. And it could be done darkly quirky as well, but overall, they know how to find the most biting dark humor out of any moments, and they really capture that. Like No Country for Old Men and Fargo are the most perfect examples of those. No Country for Old Men has no reason to be as funny as it is, and it's honestly from like the character interactions. Like, it's like, Llewellyn, where did you get that money? It's like, how about you shut up? It's just like, I might just have to, if you don't shut up, I might just have to take you back and screw you. And it's just like, that kind of interaction is just so goofy and just pops with everything. But the thing is, the tension and the brutality and balancing this very abrupt, what a lot of people, it's like, that really doesn't feel natural, but that's life. Life comes in like that. And the Coen Brothers really captured that sense of craziness of life in their films so well. And starting all the way back with Blood Simple, which feels one of the least Coen Brothers of their films. It's really them on a lower budget really figuring out what they're doing, but boy, does the character work really stick out. Emmett Walsh, who plays this hitman, is such an interesting character, and the way that it's shot, and the lighting and everything, the tension, it's really unnerving, and that film is so great, and like, it really captures, the Coen Brothers can really capture a particular sense of a place or a region or something, and that's like a precursor to like No Country for Old Men, with that Texas setting and stuff like that. The music choices are always very interesting as well, whether it's score or not use of any sound music, or whether it's a particular song being chosen. Raising Arizona, because like there's two very particular Coen Brothers kinds of films. There's like the really crazy character, goofy nuts comedies, and then there's the really dark, biting, really stark black comedy that they do. And like Raising Arizona is one of the top tier of like those goofy comedies. We'll get to the number one soon, but like it's so goofy, and Nicolas Cage really eats it up, and Holly Hunter's great, John Goodman. Them, the people that they get to be in all their films, John Goodman's my favorite. I feel like he really captures what the Coen Brothers are trying to do. He is so great. Jeff Bridges and George Clooney are some of the really top ones that really capture the Coen Brothers spirit. And John Goodman's great in that. Like the whole like motorcycle guy from hell, that's hilarious in stark contrast with like the sort of goofiness and it's like this absurd like holy crap darkness really colliding. Miller's Crossing is one of their more straightforward, but really, and because the thing is, there's not a whole lot of really famous people in that film, but the character actors all do such a great job. John Turturro, Gabriel Byrne, now I'm forgetting what his name is. Sometimes I should just write down some actors' names on my notes when I'm doing these director's things, but the guy who played, I think it's Sam Polito, I feel like that's his name, who plays like one of the mobsters in this movie, and that is a really well done, powerful film. Albert Finney is great in that film, and Barton Fink is one of my favorite Coen Brothers films, and that really captures, like, it's really meta in the sense that it's them dealing with their own writer's block by writing a film about writer's block, and it really is a personal film for them. And then having John Turturro and John Goodman's performances in that film are fantastic. And I love like there's particular shots in Coen Brothers films that I absolutely love, and one of my favorites is like that flaming hotel towards the end is just really powerful, or the shot sitting on the beach at the very end. Now you have the Hudsucker Proxy. I've watched it once. I'm not a huge fan. It felt like them selling out a bit. And it wasn't even feeling like they went too far with their own creative juices. I felt like it was their creative juices muted by somebody else trying to tell them to do something different. And like, it's fine. I probably wouldn't watch it again. But then they bounced back, didn't they? And they came out with Fargo. And Fargo, Frances McDormand, Mrs. Coen brother, is one of their muses, and she does such a fantastic job in Fargo, and she just captures it so well. William H. Macy and Steve Buscemi, Peter Stormare, everybody in that film, from like the smallest thing to, it's like, oh, did you see the Beaver Gopher game, did you? And just like, the accent is so ridiculous, but it's so funny. You betcha, yeah. And it's like, he's just funny looking. And like, just even the fact that people like try to mimic that accent all the time because it's so memorable. But this is one of their dark ones, and there's so much shocking violence in Coen Brothers films, and this is one that really captures that so well, and it's so beautiful on the backdrop of all that snow, like the bloody nature, like the highway scene at night is so powerful. And then the thing is, look at what the Coen Brothers did. They went from one of their greatest dark films and serious films to The Big Lebowski, which, if I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, there's two films on this list that I can gush over for forever, but I would suggest check out my reviews of both of them on my channel, because Big Lebowski is one of my favorite, like, it's my number 5 favorite film of all time. Between the music, the Bob Dylan going on, the Kenny Rogers in first edition with just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in, that whole gutter ball sequence, which check out my talking about that particular scene. And it's so great, and it's so funny. The characters are absurd. Why is the Jesus so entertaining when he's on screen for like a combined, what, like a minute maybe? John Turturro leaves such an impression, and him being introduced to with like a Spanish version of Hotel California, and like interlaying with the fact that later the dude's like, "Hey man, can you? I have a hangover and I hate the effing Eagles, man," and it's just like that makes so much sense at that moment, and how those little details connect. And Walter Sobchak's one of my favorite characters in a movie. I remember sitting with my mom and my mom trying to talk to me about like serious, like, if something happens to me stuff, I want you to just cremate me. And then of course I went on YouTube and showed her, just because we're bereaved doesn't make us saps. And it's like, this is our most modest receptacle. That guy though, ugh, it hits so well and is such an interesting film. And then you have Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which George Clooney jumping into a Coen Brothers movie, and his dialogue in that is so great, and he's so great in that. The music, the bluegrass going on is really well done, and Roger Deakins really trying out different things with cinematography, with them saturating the coloring in post production looks so amazing, and it really captures the advancements in filmmaking. And the Coen Brothers are filmmakers that will push boundaries, and their work with Roger Deakins, love Roger Deakins, is so great with that. And then you have a film like The Man Who Wasn't There, which is one of their least praised films, but it's pure black and white. Deakins does a fantastic job with that as well, and Billy Bob Thornton really captures the Coens' work very well. And then there's a bit of a spell. You had Intolerable Cruelty, which, like, I put plus and minuses on my notes, and I put plus and minus because I think it's hilarious, but I feel like there's not a whole lot underneath it. It's very surface level, and like George Clooney, Jeffrey Rush, hilarious in that film, and Catherine Zeta-Jones, Edward Herrmann, they all have their moments where they're great, but there's not a whole lot of substance to their films, which that's a shame because the Coen Brothers can really load a film with so much substance and still be really fun. And then we have The Lady Killers, which I'll admit, this makes this different for the Hudsucker Proxy for me, is that they're both misses, but at least this is a miss because the Coen Brothers went too far in their own direction, and it still feels like a Coen Brothers film. It's just way too goofy for its own good. But some of the characters in that, I know some people hate Tom Hanks' performance in this. I loved it. I thought he was hilarious, and I honestly would like to see him be in another Coen Brothers film. And then there's No Country for Old Men, which honestly I think is one of the greatest modern classics in cinema. And the fact that this came out the same year as There Will Be Blood, and those two films are like titans among modern American cinema, is breathtaking. Both shot in Texas. They even affected each other's filming schedules. That a flaming oil scene from There Will Be Blood caused issues for No Country for Old Men. But this film is so dark. Coen Brothers went full blown, we don't give a shit, honestly, about expectations of cinema nowadays, because that undermines every idea of what you would expect, to the fact that there's no score at all, and it uses silence so well. And then story wise, it does all kinds of stuff, and from like a choosing like their choices on what they will film and what they won't show you is incredible, and it's really powerful, and their visual storytelling is so great. And please go check out my video, like my actual review of the film, but also go check out my talking about the cat and mouse scene, because that's one of my favorites, between Josh Brolin and Javier Bardem, Llewellyn running away from Anton Chigurh. And then we have Burn After Reading, which I think is hilarious. George Clooney's paranoid face is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a movie. And every time that comes out, it's hilarious. Richard Jenkins, I love Richard Jenkins, and I wish that he would pop up in more Coen Brothers films and get more attention. I was really pulling for him for the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor this year for Shape of Water, but like Brad Pitt though is so hilarious. That film, J.K. Simmons has such a tiny role in it, and he's hilarious. And it's not one of the. It's like there's top tier Coens, there's second tier Coens, there's still I like Coen brother movies, and this is definitely second tier. But I still really like Burn After Reading a lot. And then A Serious Man, which is one of their most intimate films because this is based off of them growing up in a Jewish community in Minnesota, and this idea of this really capturing something inside. And Michael Stuhlbarg, man, he is amazing. He is such a great actor, and the fact that he didn't even get nominated for Best Supporting Actor for anything he was in this year, in 2017, was bullshit. Honestly, how he didn't get nominated for Call Me By Your Name for literally one scene. He's in more scenes, but there's one scene, and he really carries this film. And this is a tough film to carry because it could be potentially alienating if you're not Jewish and really understand this culture, but this film really does a fantastic job of capturing it. And then True Grit. I love True Grit. It's one of my favorite westerns of all time. That's another series I'd like to do in the future. And True Grit is so great. And Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, Haley Steinfeld, everything. The dialogue is great. How it's shot, the story, it just really captures. And it's such a big improvement over the like John Wayne one. And Jeff Bridges' performance, like, you know, Jeff Bridges doing the Jeff Bridges thing. And him and Rutherford Cogburn is so great. And quickly to finish up, Inside Llewyn Davis is a really well done film that is very interesting, a lot more low key. I love what it does with the folk music. Has such an interesting cast with Oscar Isaac, Justin Timberlake, Adam Driver, John Goodman, F. Murray Abraham, and it's one that I feel like should get more attention. And then you have something goofy like Hail Caesar, which is like, let's get all the famous people, do an ode to Hollywood's golden age, and just have a lot of fun with it. And I enjoy that film. It's not top tier Coens, it's just fun, and I enjoy it. So, I gushed over a lot of Coens today, and this is a long video, so I'm going to wrap up. But please go check out these films by the Coens. They're great filmmakers, and please go check out the rest of my videos in the series. Maybe you'll get some cool recommendations you should check out, and let me know what you think of some of the Coen Brothers films, and keep on the conversation and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.